Welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. I'm your host, Rich Prado, owner of Play in School. Today we're heading up the road over to the Annapolis, Maryland area to catch up with Tommy O'Farrell with the API Cavs and Archbishop Spalding High School. We're going to talk about both today. Tommy, how you doing, man?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Rich. Really appreciate the opportunity to hang out and talk.
Yeah, you got it. You and I have traded DMs and texts in the past, and so I'm happy to finally get you on the show. Before hitting record, I was already learning a lot about API, and it sounds a little, the setup you guys had sounds a little bit reminiscent of a recent guest that we had with the LV Knights. With Coach Treppis out of Las Vegas. So if anybody wants to hear a similar setup, go find that episode just a few episodes back. But let's start at the beginning for you. We don't have to go back to to your first time picking up a baseball, but give us a little bit of your baseball background and walk us up to where API gets its start and how you came to be involved, and then weave into the story about the connection with Archbishop Spalding.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I grew up. I played locally. I played Little League back when that was still a big thing, and ended up going to Spalding. I played for our head coach Joe Palumbo at 13 and 14 year with his dad. His dad ended up being the coach at Spalding my freshman year, and they won the championship in 2011. And then he left to go be the president and principal at another high school nearby, and so Joe took over the program my sophomore year, and I ended up being our team's manager in my junior year and senior year that we won the championships. And then I just went right into coaching. While I was doing that, I was helping out one of our assistant coaches, coaching a 14U team while I was there. And then I loved it, kept rolling while I was in college. I said, I was just going to go straight to Maryland so I could keep coaching and being around the program. So I would literally get out of school at 1:45 every day at Maryland, race up the 95 to get on to a field at 3 o'clock so I could be out there throwing batting practice, getting in there with the weight room with the guys, and just helping build up the program and do everything. So Joe wanted to start up doing summer stuff when he realized kind of what was going on with all our guys. When they would go play in the summer and the fall, they wouldn't come ready to play. And when it would be the spring, they weren't getting taught a bunch of stuff that they needed to. They weren't getting enough done on the recruiting side. So he's like, I want to help our guys out, put a better product out there for us for the spring. So we ended up starting the Cavs up in summer of 2015. Started running teams on our own, and then we've just kept it rolling from there. And it's been a lot of fun since, just traveling up and down the country in the summer and in the fall, and playing and doing some showcase events whenever we can.
Archbishop Spalding being Catholic high school, right? Not terribly far from where you guys are in Gambrills, Maryland, which is again a little bit outside of Annapolis, heading in the direction of Baltimore. So this is an amazing story for you listeners at home. This is all new to me. I did not know this. You found a passion for coaching while you're in high school. And just run with it. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. So like what the first thing I'm thinking is, what are these high school kids thinking when this young guy who probably doesn't even have any hair on his chin is trying to coach them up? Like, what was that dynamic like?
It was a really fun dynamic my first year because my brother was on our freshman team that I was coaching with. And so I kind of built it up. And so I was helping run our freshman team, cutting my teeth there, helping our head coach in the summer, running some stuff, and just continuing to learn. But when they saw just how much I was around and always wanting to be there, like you earn your respect with your players. Like it didn't matter if they ever needed time to just go hit in the cage, do whatever. They would just text me and I'd be around. And so I kept always being around stuff, even when I didn't have to be. Like I would go throw just pregame for our varsity team early on. I'd be doing all the stuff in the winter with our guys, just being around. Like, and it was guys that I was teammates with, and like it was just fun being around the boys. And like when they see you're constantly there and you really just genuinely care about them, they're all for it and they want to keep rolling. They'll trust you, and that's all you can ask for as a coach. Have players that trust you and believe in you.
That's phenomenal. And then, so you graduate, you end up at University of Maryland, College Park, I'm assuming, right? Right there. Was there ever? I mean, you seem like such a, like a loyal guy to Archbishop Spalding. You're still there coaching. Was there ever any thought about going and knocking on the door at the Maryland baseball office to say, hey, can I help here? Or were you just so locked in with Archbishop?
I really didn't have too much of an interest. My best friend who is our pitching coach, he was there for a year. And so he got to know their pitching coach and learned some stuff from him, Corey Muscara, when Corey was there. And so he was a student assistant coach his junior year. And then he realized, he was like, man, this was not a good decision. And we're like, why is that? He's like, I loved coaching. Like, I actually got to be involved coaching guys, running the pitching programs on the JV team for the 2 years. And then, so he was splitting time while he was being a student assistant coach at Maryland. He was splitting time with that, and then also with us in the spring at our high school. And so he was like, I'm not doing this my senior year. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do high school stuff so I can actually coach the guys and really get after it. I don't need to just go through drills and help out and be a bystander on things.
Yeah, it's a different animal too, right? Like there's not a lot of college programs, especially at that level, that are going to let some 19-year-old jump in and kind of like run the practice, if you will. So the alternative is where you can go over to the high school and get a lot more responsibility and at the end of the day have a lot bigger impact on the kids and the program.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we have a good relationship with the Maryland guys. There were 3 guys that I played with that ended up going to Maryland and played for Coach Sheff for a year, and then also for Coach Milan. And now we had one kid that just played for them last year. We have a kid that's going there beginning his freshman year this year, and we got another kid that's committed to him. So it's not like we don't know what's going on at the Maryland program, and they run a great ship. But it's just like you said, you're a 19-year-old kid. You want to learn, you want to do stuff, and you want to kind of trial and error. You have to learn some lessons by failing, and you can't do that if you're on the sidelines and not getting to be very involved with things.
So then fast forward a few years, the travel ball thing is becoming prevalent. It's your head guy at Archbishop is obviously seeing all of his guys go off each summer. When your season ends, they go off and they jump in with XYZ travel ball organization. And then they come back in the fall, and you guys are kicking things off, probably playing a fall season, fall schedule. He just wasn't super happy how they came back to him, which motivated him to put together his own thing, which basically allowed him to keep his guys in-house, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, at that point, he can't complain if guys come back in the fall not ready, right?
Yep. No, we took it head on. We realized that, hey, this is going to be we're going to bet on ourselves and our ability to coach and get our guys prepared, but we felt pretty confident. But we got a good network of coaches. Joe, our head coach, played at Maryland, so he played in the ACC against all the good kids when he was at Maryland that was there when they were still in the ACC back then. And then his brother's the recruiting coordinator at East Carolina. So we have good relationship, know what's going on. We had college scouts and pro scouts.
It's that Palumbo.
Yep.
Now, yeah, I was going to interject earlier when you said Palumbo, and I was like, maybe not. Okay, cool. That's awesome.
So Joe's whole brothers, all three of them, played in college. Jeffrey made it up way into the minors.
Yeah.
And they all were high-level high school and college players, and so they knew what it took to be successful. And we would see our guys come back in; they'd be loopy, getting the ball in the air. They would be selfish in the box, striking out too much, and basically we'd have every month, first month of the season, we'd be breaking them down out of trying to get them back into where they need to be. And by the time it gets to the end of the season, they'd be good, but you'd be cutting your teeth a little bit more than you should be early on.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't bought into winning baseball and some of the things that it takes, bunting, moving runners over, situational stuff, just having good awareness about when to run things, good counts to steal in, good pitch selection, good approaches, all that stuff. When it's summer and they're getting a ton of ABs, it all blends together. The approach and the emphasis on each AB just kind of falls by the wayside.
Yeah, and in the defense of the travel ball, the traditional travel ball organization, you're not practicing 6 days a week during the summer, right? So it's like it's hard to have that time to lock in on the teaching, the development. It has become more of a let's play in front of college coaches versus let's teach the game, right? It's great for the first and it's hard for the second. That's just the reality of things. A lot of teams have recognized that and are trying to figure out ways to bring the development piece back to the travel ball. Now, one of the obstacles is when you have a roster filled with guys from all over the country. Kind of hard to run a practice like that. Even if you're just running the team that has guys from all over the region or state, hard to run a practice like that on a Tuesday afternoon. But when you have all guys that happen to go to the same high school, it becomes a lot more natural to get together to run practices and continue to sort of reinforce the things that you worked on all spring. So I'm assuming that's a huge advantage just geographically, being able to get your guys to a practice in the summer, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the big thing that we tell our guys is you're playing 2 years with us because we don't do 17U for the most part. We did years ago, but we really try not to. We focus on the freshman and sophomore years and have freshmen playing up to 16U. Have them playing against older kids that are a little bit better, and then they cut their teeth a little bit, and then they're playing at their age group again, and they're continuing to perform better because they've been playing at this level already for a year. And then it allows them to spend time on their own development. I mean, it's not like we're just playing local stuff. Last summer we were going to Black Bear, and we were down there for 4 days, come back up here, and we're playing in a local tournament, but we're playing for 4 days up here, another well-run event by Prospect Select. And then we go down to North Carolina the following weekend, and we had some rain mixed in there. We didn't practice for 21 days.
Mm-hmm.
By the time we got down to North Carolina at the end, it showed, and the guys' bodies looked tired, and they weren't able to get a consistent amount of lifts in all the time because you're playing on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. You're getting home on a Monday, so you're only getting a lift in maybe on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
If you're lucky, that's the thing. If it all goes according to plan, we got our guys in the gym 2 to 3 days a week, and maybe they're getting an extra day in on their own. We're getting practices in a couple times a week, or maybe a midweek game, so they can keep loose and get ABs and still see live pitching. So it's not just on the weekend, and they're basically going 4 days without seeing live pitching, and then just rolling into games. So there's a clear plan that we put into place with our guys every year, and it's just the practicing component and spending extra time working on deficiencies, like, is so huge for guys. It's like, we can talk to a guy like, hey, you're getting the ball way too much in the air right now. Like, everything hitting the fly out. You got to get on the field. We'll do some on-field tee work on them, keeping it below the fence line and just be able to backspin the ball up the middle. Or guys are really struggling with the outer half pitch. Hey, we're going to go with some oppo front toss right now, and just being able to stay back and use right center field and get back into some BP. Or if, like, we're going down to Georgia and we know we're going to face some good arms, we'll get ready to start prepping for some velo. So we'll crank the machines out and we'll start putting it on guys really hard, working on bunting. You know, we're going to have to do that to win games and like really challenging our guys. And they may cut us out and get ticked off because they're not going to be having success in practice. They're not getting the feel-good BP that they probably want.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to challenge them, get ready to go. And so, I mean, it paid dividends. We go down, we beat the 5-star team that won the whole WWVA tournament, and we beat them pretty handily, 9-3, and our guys were all over a dude throwing 88 to 90, and it's just a little high school team from Maryland. It's a combination of guys that are 8th graders through sophomores, like, because there's a plan there every year.
What a neat advantage that your type of team has, where the guys are close in. Again, not to be repetitive, but it's all one high school. They're all close, pretty close in, close proximity, and so you can prep before you go to an event. That's a pretty good advantage. Like, there's no denying that. Listen, when you have kids from far out, all over the state or all over the country, yeah, that kid can go take BP on his own, but it's not quite the same. You know what I mean? It's not quite the same. Especially when you see things like, the thing about baseball is when everybody's pulling on the same side of the rope, and there's this camaraderie and there's this comfort because you've known the guy for, you've been playing next to the guy for, 12 months now or 24 months. Like, there's this like natural, easy communication, sometimes unspoken, and timing. I'm thinking about those, a bunt defense or a double play, like relationships and comfort, and time together. A lot of times shows in those types of plays, and it's usually those types of plays that win a game or lose a game, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we tell all our guys, like, hey, like, the guys you're on the field with right now, like, you guys, like, the expectation is you guys are going to be on the field. It matters most when we're trying to win a championship game. When you guys are either juniors or seniors, like, that's kind of the big thing that we harp on them. It's like, this is not the most important innings of baseball that you're playing in your high school career. That's going to come later on. But it's like, you just hit the nail on the head. But the familiarity you have with guys that you've been playing shortstop and second base with, the system doesn't change. Everybody knows whether you're on JV or you're on varsity or you're on the freshman team. Like, you're getting challenged the same way, and you're going to keep getting the same coaching that the older guys are getting that are getting ready to go to the big schools, play in college. You're getting coached the same way as a 15 and 16-year-old, but then it's also, you're used to that expectation by the time you're a junior, and we're trying to put together wins to have a championship. And I mean, it came to fruition the past 2 years. We had really good seasons. We went undefeated in conference play this year, won our championship. Last year, we were number one in the conference, and then we lost an early playoff game. We battled all the way back to the losers bracket and made it to another championship, and just fell short facing a really good Gilman squad. But I mean, that is always a top program, but it's paying off with exactly how you want for us.
Yeah, you mentioned Gilman. For those of you guys who aren't around the Baltimore area, that if you may recognize Larry Sheets is the head coach. You may recognize that name. I believe the rumor was he was Cal Ripken's roommate for a long time when he was up in the big leagues with the O's. But Larry Sheets has been the head guy at Gilman for forever now, and his son Gavin is now a big leaguer, I believe, with the White Sox, isn't he?
Yep.
And that Gilman team is no slouch. They're good every single year.
Yeah, I mean they had last year they had a third-round draft pick that got taken by the Dodgers by named Peter Hubeck, and we didn't get to face him in the championship. We actually he was going to throw the next day if we had won, and but I mean it's always fun going up against some of these schools because you know them for 3 and 4 years. For some of these kids, Peter was on varsity as a sophomore, and we knew what he had, and we had a very good outing against him earlier in the season. We ended up scoring, I think, 4 or 5 off of him, which is not easy to do when you got a kid that's topping out 95. But we were really chomping at the bit trying to get that chance to face him again. And our guys just came a little bit short on a rainy day. But our conference is just loaded with players. I mean, Calvert Hall had a 4th-round draft pick by the Padres and Lamar King last year, and they had a solid squad. And I mean, we're constantly playing good TV in the area. You got St. John's in D.C. or Georgetown Prep always has some good guys out in the Bethesda, Potomac, Maryland, playing top programs in Virginia like Benedictine or up in Pennsylvania like Malvern Prep or Penn Charter. Like we're going to challenge our guys basically 12 months a year, whether it's during the high school season or during the summer program.
Yeah, that's every club you just named is loaded. Every single club you just named is loaded. I want to go back. We kind of breezed over the sort of the coaching tree up there. If I was paying attention, you've got Palumbo the father, and then Palumbo the son, coaching at Archbishop Spalding, and then obviously Jeff Palumbo, who's the associate head coach, by the way, and recruiting coordinator at East Carolina. So it's his brother and father who are running Archbishop with you.
No, so Jeff actually was there in 2011 and 2012, and then he moved on to be the president and principal at another high school. Joe took over as head coach. And his dad, when he went to Pilates, was just focusing on the admin stuff over there. He hasn't been involved with Spalding baseball since he left, but Joe's been running it since he took over in 2013. And he's going into, I think it's now his 10th year.
Okay. All right. So it was Jeff's father, Jeff Palumbo from East Carolina. He's the only Palumbo I know personally. So his dad was running it. Mm-hmm. He's left to focus on admin. And now Jeff's brother Joe is the coach now going on 10 years. I think you said he started in 2013.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. Got it. And that is talk about another baseball family, right? That's awesome.
Yeah. He Joe had 3 brothers. Jeffrey ended up making it all the way up to minors in AAA, I think it was. And then his brother Jonathan played in college as well, and now he's the athletic director at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. And then Joe played at Maryland after going to DeMatha for his time, and then his youngest brother Daniel went to George Mason, and he played for Coach Rakudia there a little bit, and Coach Brown. And he's not in baseball right now, but I mean. He had a good high school career. Played in college. All 4 of them played in college, and the family knows baseball. So.
Yeah, that's I love those type of stories where it's so ingrained in the family, where it almost becomes like the family business in a way, if you could think about it like that. One brother's a college AD. One brother's a college head coach. Another brother is a high school head coach. The dad was a longtime high school head coach. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, and I'm glad I kind of came back full circle to get clarity on that, because I don't know the whole rest of the family beyond Jeff. That's pretty awesome. Well. Good stuff, man. This is it's a neat way. I think we've highlighted so many sort of like benefits, but does anybody, like you guys aren't like, it's not like a prerequisite. You're not forcing guys to stick with you. It's just like by choice and they choose to hang with you all year?
Yeah, I mean, we just show that we have a very good track record in everything we're doing. We're constantly preparing guys for wanting to be able to play for us when it comes to the high school season and having them make varsity. And then for the guys that are already on a head start of stuff, then we can jump on the college train for them. So, I mean, this past summer we had 2 kids that were on our 16U team commit to Maryland and East Carolina. And then we're still helping our guys when they get to that junior and senior year where they're getting the recruiting stuff done. We had our senior right-handed pitcher just commit to Towson that we were helping him along with while he was playing for the Dirtbags. We had a kid that was playing for the East Coast Royals that was ended up committing to UMBC this summer. And so we were helping him along with the process in that. So, like, just because guys aren't playing for us in the summer doesn't mean we're not helping them along the way, but we just basically tell them, like, hey, go through the tough times and everything at 15, 16U, where for the most part it's not about, you're not starting recruiting unless you're the top 1% of 1% of baseball players. We're going to coach you up and get you prepared for the same way that we're coaching our starting shortstop who's going to East Carolina, or our left-hand pitcher who's going to Seton Hall. We're coaching you up in that way. And then when it matters for you to try to go get your recruiting started as a junior or senior potentially, yeah, we're still going to be the guy that's going to go talk to phone calls. So we don't have a Rolodex. It's just, yeah, you're 5'8", 140 pounds as a sophomore right now.
Yeah.
You might be a 6 foot 175 guy by the end of your junior year that, yeah, you're talking to George Mason or UMBC or Mount St. Mary's. So it's just that we want to focus on continuing to get our guys prepared for when they step up to the field on varsity, and then also understanding that, hey, right now it's about the team and trying to get our identity ingrained in what we try to do and the way we play Spalding baseball. And you guys learn that for 2 years. You can take that and you already know what we're preaching for when you're an upperclassman. Now you can go be a little bit more selfish, a little bit about yourself, a little bit more going and playing for some of these other orgs, and getting your time and getting your chance to recruit and maybe be a little bit more in the spotlight, because maybe you were the second baseman on our team, maybe you're a shortstop playing for someone else, or maybe you're batting in the 8 hole and now you're moving up to the 2 hole because you've grown and you've taken the steps you needed to. Like, there's the true development process and track that takes time.
It's such an interesting dynamic, because I think it would only be natural for a lot of programs to be a little bit, upset or mad or jealous or whatever if a kid leaves to go play for somebody else. That's sort of like that crux moment, right? You're heading into like 17U, but with y'all, it's by design. It's like, okay, cool. Like now you're ready, and that's okay, because we've got these 2 other teams full of guys that now it's their time for us to focus on them from a developmental standpoint. So, which requires probably not only communication but cooperation and strong relationships. I mean, you just rattled off a bunch of clubs where your guys have gone off to, whether it be, the East Coast Royals with Chris Hudson, or like the Mid-Atlantic Red Sox with Alan Haynes, the Dirtbags with Andy Parton or John Walker. Like, I don't think you're going to be like going like headbutting with these guys, because they're helping your players as well, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's just a big thing is just understanding, hey, we have our area that we're focusing on. We're staying in that 16U lane. We want to get our guys at 15 and 16U ready. We want our guys, we want our number 1 pitcher in our team thrown in the big spot. So when they go to Georgia, they're getting the tough draw against the 5-star team that's full of D1 commits. And we've done it in Fort Myers, and we're facing off against a solid Richmond Braves team or a solid Florida Dodgers team that's got some guys on there. We want our top pitchers getting that draw. We want them to be throwing the 5, they're sitting out, and they're having to learn to navigate 3 times through the order. We don't necessarily just want a guy that's going to come in, throw, 3 innings and throw his 40 pitches and out because he did his job. But we want our guys to continue to progress and learn over the summer, and then they're also getting into a two-way deal as well, because our best pitcher might also be a first baseman for us on the high school side.
Mm-hmm.
You go play for a top team or dirtbags team or whatever, yeah, you're going to be a PO probably.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to come back during the high school season and you're potentially going to hit for us.
Yeah, and he hadn't picked up a bat in 4 months.
Yeah, and so they can keep growing in their game, and that's the big thing for guys to understand. Yeah, you might be playing college at a certain level, at a certain position, but you might play more of a role for us during the high school season, and so we're constantly asking more out of our guys, and we're still able to hold our own and play tough games against quality opponents. It's not that there's a talent shortage or anything like that, it's just then that you don't have 8 to 10 POs that you're ready to roll out that are going to come out throwing 85 plus. You might have 4 guys that are going to be solid arms, and you got a bunch of guys that are two-weighing and splitting time between other positions. So where they're just trying to feel things out, because really you don't, in a lot of cases, guys don't know what they're going to be in college or at the next level until they're upperclassmen and their bodies are fully formed. I mean, our guy that just committed to Towson, we always thought he was going to be a solid pitcher, but he didn't know what level he was going to be. His fall of junior year, he was top in 83 at Long Labor Day weekend. Fast forward to a year later in Fort Myers in late July, he hits 90 for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So, you don't know what track guys are going to take, but you want to keep kind of doors open and kind of be able to see where guys can progress and operate, and it pays off so many dividends just in the long run for the kids too.
Yeah, I dig it. Very cool stuff, man. Hey, I'm looking at the clock. I want to make sure I get a couple of these sort of standard questions in that I ask everybody. First one. I always find myself heading straight to Amazon when I ask this. Is there a book or a movie or website or a Twitter account, any sort of resource that you are finding yourself recommending to other coaches or your players?
I mean, I'm a massive Twitter guy. I'm constantly on there looking at stuff. I mean, whether it's the pitching stuff where you're seeing guys like Alan Yeager or Dustin Peace of Location Nation, a bunch of our arms have seen him in the past where they understand and learn how to pitch, not just throw.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have other guys. I know Nick Sanzeri and Ben Brewster do a good job of putting out some good content.
Yes, they do. Yep.
You got some hitting guys like Patrick Jones or Trey Handham, or guy right down the street from us, Matt Swope of Maryland.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so there's a lot of good resources out there, and it's not just hitting and pitching. You can find stuff on anything. I mean, I can't tell you how many different catching guys that I've watched videos on. You got Jerry Weinstein, I mean, who's just an encyclopedia of baseball knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
You can just, anytime you pull up his Twitter, you can just learn something no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bunch of good stuff out there that you can just get for free. You just have to know what's good and kind of what might be eye wash, and just go all in. If you're going to learn something and you're going to embrace something, go all in with it. Don't half-ass it. If you're going to be a bands guy and just throw a ton, then commit to throwing a ton and doing that all year. Don't just kind of be like, yeah, I don't really want to do some of this other stuff, plyos and mid balls. I just want to throw. Well, then throw all year. Be that guy and embrace that program and that plan. You just have to commit to something 100%. But I mean, besides just going and doing that stuff, I think the biggest thing anyone can do is go get an ABCA membership and be able to go watch the old convention videos.
Yeah.
That got done. I mean, there's no better way to learn for that kid that wants to go play in college. What college coaches are teaching. I mean, I watched the video that Nick Schnabel gave about infield at least 2 or 3 times. You see other guys that they have up there that are at the top of their game, the top of their class at whatever level they're coaching, and you can just learn so much stuff. I mean, I remember everyone was talking about when Coach, or the Texas A&M pitching coach, was out there giving a whole big talk last year, and it was just gold after gold after gold of stuff to listen to on pitching, and you're able to really learn what guys are looking for at that level. And I think that's a thing that's getting fairly lost by the kids that are just playing right now, because they're just focused on playing and training and this and that, but they don't understand situations. They're not learning aspects of the game and little nuances on things. They're focused on making sure they get enough ABs, enough innings, making sure that they're doing all of their stuff when they're on their own and they're doing whatever trainer they have, but they're not learning necessarily certain aspects or fundamentals of the game that are getting lost. And I remember every time the convention rolls out, I'm texting our guys, hey, Coach Shoemaker from Vandy is going to come on and he's going to give a catching presentation. I sent my login to every single one of our catchers. I'm like, guys, hop in, just take notes. Like, I know we do a good job of preparing you guys for being able to catch at the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we've got guys that are committed to go play at the Division I level behind the dish. But, hey, go listen to this guy, because he's as good as you're going to find out there.
Yeah.
You just learn from these guys and take advantage of the resources when they're there available to you.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff, man. The ABCA membership worth its weight in gold right there. Very good. Let me ask you, let's go one last question. If I gave you magic wand, what is one change you think could be made to travel baseball that would have the biggest positive impact?
I think the biggest thing that's really hurting right now, and I know they're talking about changing up, is the recruiting landscape. It's so hard when you're a coach and you've got kids, and you have the kid that looks up on Twitter and he sees kids that are in the 26 class that are committing right now.
Yeah.
And you've got kids that are 25s right now wondering, what the hell, I'm not talking to anybody. I'm not looking at stuff. And the reality is, it's not that coaches aren't going to find the guys that they want and need. It's in more likelihood, you just aren't quite there. It's not a lack of exposure. I mean, these college coaches aren't going and sitting at fields anymore and just parking out at a spot for 6 hours a day. I mean, but when I was talking, like I said, I mentioned that we had a good relationship with some of the Maryland coaches. We got really close with Corey Mascara.
Mm-hmm.
And Corey told me this summer, he's like, I'm covering Diamond Nation, Hoover, Black Bear, Carry USA National Championships, 15U WWBA, and the UBC down in Florida between our three coaches. That's 6 major events that guys are at, and there's 3 of us to go out and watch them.
Mm-hmm.
So they're having to prioritize guys and pick where they're going to go. Like,
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough road to slate, and so it doesn't matter necessarily even what event you're going to. Sometimes the school that you're looking for, it isn't going to be there, and it's just because the recruiting is all over the place. You've got schools that are going to have to recruit 14 and 15-year-olds because they want to get ahead, and then kids are like, well, how am I going to get a chance to be seen? And it's because they're traveling all over. They're going to come to these guys that they know about and that they want to watch, and then they're hightailing out of there, and they're going to the next field. And so that's exactly what a couple schools that came to watch us play down in South Carolina. They came from Cary, drove over to Clemson to watch us play, and then they drove down to Georgia that night. And so they were in 3 different locations in one day. Like, it's crazy because there's so much going on because the recruiting is all over the place right now. And I think if it got a little bit more refined, you're going to see kids make better decisions, and you might see the overall product grow because guys aren't going to be just spending money traveling up and down the East Coast. I mean, like I said, we're from Maryland. We're driving down to North Carolina, South Carolina, flying to Georgia, traveling all over the place. Our kids are spending half the summer in hotels. It's not only is it massively expensive, it's draining on the kids. I mean, you can't expect a kid to be playing at his best in the middle of July in Georgia when he's already been in the hotel for 15 days this summer and hasn't been able to get lifts in because he's doing everything. And it's just because the way recruiting is, you have to spend the time and energy to go to places to be seen, and then you got to play well. And if things got a little bit more refined and specific into grad classes when they're actually able to start to recruit kids, I think you see a massive change in the product out there, especially at that 14 and 15 year level where the kids are going to focus on getting better. They're not just going to travel just to travel.
I think the main takeaway there is if you're a player or travel ball coach and you're showing up blind without having done your due diligence of communication and marketing before you get in the car to go to the event, I would have low expectations. Vice versa, college coaches, if they're not doing their due diligence and pre-assessing kids and putting together the list of who they're there to see, well, then they should have low expectations of that event. Like, that's what's happening right now. The people that are having success, it's based on a lot of communication / marketing ahead of time. Like, when you show up, if you're a kid and you've done your due diligence, or you play for a coach that's done their due diligence, and you're on a bunch of college coaches' lists of who he's going to see, man, you're loving it. But if you're a kid or you play for a team that has done zero due diligence, zero communication, and zero marketing, and your main game plan or strategy is fingers crossed, man, it's going to be a tough slog through that weekend of games. Your best hope is you better hope you're playing somebody good that has a bunch of coaches coming to see them. But that's such a naive strategy. Yeah, man. I keep hearing stories of last summer, seeing a lot less coaches. There's the portal has impacted that.
They're going to watch college summer league games.
Exactly. I've
watched the kids there in the portal that they're trying to get. I mean,
exactly right.
Coaches out there, you're limited to what you can do, and that's why. I know camps sometimes get a bad rep. You got some places that run really good camps. You got some places that run bad camps.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a resurgence of the college camp. I think it was already happening before COVID, but I think that's just another thing that got sort of sped up.
It's another eval for kids, and that's what kids don't realize. You're going to need pretty much 3 to 4 evals from coaches. I mean, we joke about with East Carolina, and it's Joe's brother there. Well, our first baseman that committed there and is playing there right now, he had to hit a home run in front of every single one of their coaches. Cliff saw one, pitching coach, Coach Dietrich, saw one, and Jeff saw him hit a home run before they offered him when he was in the summer at 16. And he had a really good freshman year, and he's still a big piece for them.
Yeah.
But it took a lot to be seen by them.
Yeah, those were just 3 at-bats. That kid probably had 25 at-bats in front of that staff, which is when you look at it in that perspective, like when I was coming through, you might have had 3 at bats in front of a college coach, and that was it. They make a decision, yay or nay. Man, you know what? The travel ball industry, the current landscape has really kind of just created so much efficiencies that now all of a sudden coaches can see a kid swing the bat 25 different times or 35 different times. You're like, man, well, that's great, but goodness gracious, it's totally different.
Yeah, but then you see other guys that they're making quick triggers on because they want to be ahead of somebody. They don't want a kid to get sped up in the process, so they'll jump on him too early because hey, you can't afford to wait around with some guys, and so you're constantly seeing it where guys you're like, I wonder why he jumped on that. He might have had he might have had 2 really good weeks this summer, and he hit the shit out of the ball, and you're like, there you go. Like, you gotta get that guy. And it might be that he had a dreadful summer for the other 6 weeks, but he had a really good 2 weeks when everyone was there watching, and you have to do well. It always matters how you do when guys are there, and that's why, again, I just proposed the camp side. You go down, you have a good camp in front of the coaching staff, especially early on in the summer, and you're on the radar for the rest of the summer. So it happened with our catcher going to JMU, goes to the camp, he's in front of Ike, their head coach, loves him, has assistant coach come up for an inter squad game, and then it's like, okay, I like him. Comes down to see us at an 8 a.m. game in Georgia, barrels up 90 in the second game of the weekend, and it's like, okay, I've got enough ABs and I've prioritized this kid enough. and I'm going to go see him, and I like what I see. But you're driving an hour one direction in Georgia and Atlanta. It's like, yeah, I can just go sit at East Cobb and probably watch some kids, but if they're prioritizing where they're going to go, you want to go somewhere, you got to find a way to get on their list. And every coach after COVID is not just taking kids on video. I don't care what guys say. Like, if they're just taking kids on video, then they're not doing their due diligence.
100%. Video was never designed to get a kid signed. Listen, I've been in video, been doing video for pushing 15 years, and the pushback I got 15 years ago from old timers was, kids don't get signed on video, and I was like, yeah, no kidding. Like, but it's exactly right. But then there was this moment in time during COVID where people were going crazy. And I'm like, man, if you're signing a kid off a Twitter video and that's all you've seen, let's put it this way, buyer beware, because if your job's on the line as a college coach and you're risking it all, you're hanging it all out there based off a 20-second Twitter video, man, that is risky. Listen, I've done more film and put more film out there than just about anybody out there, and I would have never once said that you should sign a kid just off a 20, 30, 60-second video. It's hey, let's start a conversation based off of this and go from there. Hopefully the college coaches have returned back to almost normal, where they're like, okay, definitely technology is there, videos readily available. Let's use that as the starting point. But then you still got to get out there and see live ABs. You got to get to know them. You don't just, man, if you're just like seeing a kid swing the bat one time and pulling triggers, that's risky, man. But that's also how I think that's how we also end up with a whole slew of decommitments. Because people realize they chose wrong.
Like the parents they're trying to get them to understand like how the recruiting process really works, and getting them to understand that like you can't just play well in one game. You can't just be good in one facet of the game. You have to be able to do all these things. You have to showcase all these things, and you might have a finite amount of time to show them that. And so it puts that much more emphasis on everything you do, and just getting people to understand that you have all this stuff and you need to take time to do video and other things, and you can look really good in the videos. You can get a ton of likes, attention. You can even get phone calls off of that stuff based on some of the stuff that you're putting on Twitter. But then when it boils down to who's going to show up to see the games, to really watch you, and that's going to really take the time to get to know you besides just one BS 5-minute phone call, that really starts to show what the program is like, and if it's a good place to go to school. And parents, I think at times don't quite understand that just yet, where it's that they chase the exposure, they go to the events, they chase to get video and do all these things. Look, if you're 5'8", 140 pounds, the list of schools that's going to be calling you probably isn't going to be that tremendous unless you're running a 6'5" and you're hitting double after double after double.
Well, I was going to say that. Yeah, it doesn't matter how fast you are, how big you are, how small you are. You got to hit the ball. You got to hit the ball. You either hit the ball or you keep people from hitting the ball. If you don't have one of those two skills, then it's going to be.
Your swing may look pretty as hell, and you might be crushing the ball in BP. But if you're not competitive in the box or foul off that dirty 2-strike slider, like. It doesn't matter what you do, and
correct.
You got to spend time working on some of this stuff, and just going to events and chasing exposure and all that stuff isn't going to help you in the long run. You got to spend time developing your game, and that's the thing. A lot of kids are missing that at the younger levels, and then they wonder, like, hey, I was really good at 13, 14, and 15 years old. What happened? Didn't always chase what you needed to, which should have been getting in the weight room, getting bigger, faster, stronger, and working on your actual game. You got it.
I think that's a perfect spot to stop the recording. Tommy, I appreciate you coming on with me today. I'll be anxious to follow you guys this coming spring, playing against that that thick schedule you mentioned, man. You guys don't have any layups in that schedule over there at Archbishop Spalding, so that'll be fun to track you guys. Do you have any sort of parting words if there's any, parents, coaches, or players that are still listening?
I would just say to everyone, take the time to do the research and just kind of learn what you can, ask questions. Don't just put all your eggs necessarily in one basket and just expect things to happen. You're going to have to get proactive and do some stuff on your own.
Talking my language, man.
Yeah, but you're going to have to also understand that, hey, there's going to be some tough times. It's not always going to be smooth sailing. And there's going to have to be a lot of work in there. There's a lot of stuff kids don't want to do, but if you want to make it happen, you really got to bust your tail and commit to it as a group, as a family, to make it happen. And
yeah.
Like I said, there are going to be bumps along the way, but if you're getting after it in the weight room, you're getting after it. You're competing in the box, and you're throwing strikes and just filling it up, and you're constantly focused on getting better. There are enough avenues out there that you can find a way to get where you want to be and have a chance to play in college. It may not be D1, it may not be D2, it may be JUCO, whatever avenue it takes. But if you work hard enough, there is opportunities available. Just don't turn your nose up on them, because there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to play college baseball. Hell, there's more than one way to play pro baseball. And there's no cookie-cutter approach that's going to get there. You just kind of have to create your own path, your plan, and just fully be committed to that plan.
Wise words. Let's end the recording. Don't hang up. Hang on for me one more second. But thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate it so much. Hang on.